the process in which we are able to look at the history of our country as we look at it from various narratives of our nation that in turn will build up the multiplicities of narratives which give us a collective memory of a Zimbabwean that we need. We can only do that when we look at this. Therefore, memory and memorialization is a process in which we try to remember our past in such a way that it brings about some kind of healing, some kind of togetherness, and set it as a platform on which we can build a better future. That is, in a brief, what this is all about. Nevertheless, we do need to be reminded that things like Great Zimbabwe, things like Kami ruins, things like Chebundo Memorial gravesite in Mount Darwin are all memorials that must be remembered. We need to rebuild, to build others. We need to commemorate things like Mramba China. We need to commemorate things that help us, because what often affects us is our memory. If our memory does not process things properly, it then troubles us and it gives us all kinds of problems. And in doing so, we also bear in mind that we are not the only ones. Bosnia-Herzegovina, South Africa, Burundi, Rwanda have had memorials, and you can visit them and you can see what has happened. Sometimes it has become something that people become proud of in terms of the fact that they've acknowledgement is part and parcel of doing that. The writing and rewriting of our history, not from a private perspective, but both private and public history. And the process of doing the same is very much key to memorialization, that this whole idea is not privatized, neither does it belong to a specific political narrative, but it must belong to all of us. There are nevertheless standards and principles that are critical for us that we must bear in mind. For an example, our memorialization as Zimbabweans must be context specific. Our memorialization must have self-reflection, because in many ways, memorialization is both subjective and objective. Subjective in the sense that some of the stuff that we do is coming from our own personal, painful experiences. And yet others, we do that for the sake of our future. That our posterity, when they look back, they are able to look back in the future, in the past, with anticipation of a better future. Participatory, which has already been alluded to by many others, and it is true, Father Chiromba has just mentioned, the complementarity of the process, that it does not stand alone. It also stands to deal with issues of justice, issues of truth that we have spoken about. Those are critical issues. It is a process. It is not an event. And a process that might take time. May I remind you that Tuesday last week, as some of us were traveling, we discovered that one of the people that was involved in Nazi Germany process was actually prosecuted and sent to jail 54 years after. This is a process. We are at the beginning of a journey. Probably some of us may only be here to lay the foundation for those that are coming into the future to take this up. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a joke. It is about building the nation, and it doesn't come just by one event. We also must accept the multiplicity of narratives. I would love to hear the Mutare, Manicaland narrative. I'd like to hear the Mashingo narrative. Some of us who come from Kontutu, we will give you a Matebele narrative of what Zimbabwe has been like to us. It is only when we bring those together that we become a nation and begin to come up with some kind of collective memory that seeks to build us as a nation. Let me not waste time. The Zimbabwean context will require, like others, a legal framework on which this must be done. Hence, the time, as Father Chiromba has just mentioned, this is the time to popularize, to demand, as to make sure that we will demand that which is ours, the Constitution. The Constitution has provisions for some of what we are talking about now. And it is alluded to in some quarters of political circles that probably, even though the people have been interviewed for this commission, the National Healing Commission, it may not see daylight, because all that's happening is prevarication, procrastination, pushing it away, not knowing that the shelf life for the commission is 10 years, and now we are left with 7. We have work to do. Let me conclude by saying that we also are gathered here with stakeholders. We are only giving you guidelines. You need to make decisions. You need to build principles. You need to come up with strategies of what it is that we need to do. That's why we are here. And because of that, you must bear one thing in mind, that we must not only manage, but in some way help to guide Zimbabweans' expectations about memorialization and their future. I thank you. Thank you.